So we're at 12 o'clock and we're going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and St'át'imc nations. And with that, there is an agenda recommendation.
The agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there a second for that? Thank you, Lisa. All those in favor? And that's carried. We have some. No, we have some reference materials there, the minutes. They're available. We don't need a motion there, right? No, it doesn't look like it. Are there any trustee items? Okay, seeing none, and we can move on to information items. So our quarterly financial report, third quarter, Danielle and Elena.
Thank you. So attached in the agenda, you'll find the third quarter financial report. And the third quarter end of the school year aligns with the province's year end. So that means that Elena, who prepares that, she has to do extra work for the province for the financial reporting. So extra requirements for the province's year end. So the year end and our quarter end is March 31st, 2024. So that's finalized. And Elena's prepared our financial quarter end results according to generally accepted accounting principles. And I will let her go into details what that looks like.
So this report is a snapshot of quarterly third quarter report for 23-24, covers the period from July 1st to March 31st. And it's broken into three funds. Special purpose fund, operating fund, special purpose fund, and capital fund. Total operating grant for 9 months of 23-24 was 43,000 on the right. I'm not sure why it's not giving me this. It covers, right? You cannot see the percentages. Sorry. Oh, here we go. Now. So I wanted you to see this column with percentages out of amended budget, like current year to date amount to amended budget amount. So the total operating grant for 9 months was 43.8 million. And international tuition fees are 1.9 million. And other fees 4.7 million for the total of 15.5 million of operating fund revenues. Have questions about other fees are it included for LEA agreement revenue, also non-capitalized amount of annual facility grant, non-deferred portion of school generated funds, also rental interest. It includes a lot of like maybe I will break it down for next reporting quarter to show more. Expenditures for operating fund included 46.8 million of salaries and wages and 5 million of supplies and services for the total of 51.9 million of operating expenditures and 1.4 million operating deficit. Special purpose funds are the funds for particular purposes that ministry provides us, and it's spent, it's recognized, revenue is recognized as spent, so it doesn't have surplus. So the whatever is revenue, so the same amount is expenditures, and surplus is zero. Capital fund revenue includes amortization of deferred capital revenue, 2.6 million, And 3.2 million is amortization of tangible capital assets, like buildings. For 0.6 million deficit in this fund. For the total of 1.9, almost 2 million for all three funds is the deficit. 71% of total revenue received in 9 months is 71% of the amended annual budget revenues. And total expenditures for 9 months, 61.4 million is 72.3% of the total expenditures in amended annual budget 23-24. So amended annual budget 2023-24 it included 1.4 million of use of prior year surplus to balance the budget, and it had 372,000 deficit in amended budget, and our year to date deficit is 174,000 more than that so far, with a total of 546. So there is a line besides the use of appropriated surplus, operating surplus, we have a line transfer to local capital, which means we spend our operating funds on tangible capital assets, but this amount, 124,000, represent, for the most part, is PAC funded project at Whistler Secondary School. So there is very little, only 16,000 of operating funds actually spent on washrooms. The rest was covered through restricted capital fund allowed by the province, and the rest is PAC funded capital project that we used for our local capital.
That was for the outdoor.
It was for Whistler outdoor classroom, 116,000. I can give you more details. Was funded by the project is not over yet, so there is little purchases still happening. We are waiting for the funds to come in first before we pay. There is furniture invoice that is like furniture not delivered yet or partially delivered. So there is this 124,000. It's all like for the mostly funded. It's not the use of our operating funds. Only 16,000 was spent on washrooms. Whistler Secondary School washrooms.
16 or 16? 16 that's coming out of local. So if you don't mind, so what I'll just point out, so if you look at where it says current year surplus, so it says the 1.4 million, right? So that's where we're at right now. So that's for 3/4 of the year, so 75% of the year. And we had for the you can see that we planned the 1.422 there in that line in line 31. That was what we planned. That's what we passed in the budget. And so the difference there, the 124,000, or sorry, the difference there that she had mentioned. So you can see that we're a little bit further along than what we had originally budgeted for. And I think part of that is that we have seen the schools spending a lot already throughout the year. So they're pretty much done like most of their purchases of things, like supplies and services, like their budgets are tight. So they don't have that much spending to do other than some wage spending. So that could be why it's looking like we're further ahead, like it's a timing difference. So just wanted to point that out because when Elena shows that that we're at 546, but we're projected to be at, or we were estimated to be at 372. I think we're ahead because of that, because I've looked at all the schools and they don't have very much, and they're all aware they don't have much left to spend the rest of the year, which isn't a bad thing. I think it's better to plan your purchases and be thoughtful about them ahead of time rather than like, oh, I have extra money at the end of the day, what am I going to spend it on? I'd rather that. So when you say a year,
When you say year, do you mean school year, like to June, not
Exactly.
calendar year?
That's
school year?
correct. Okay, that's right.
Thank you, Danielle. Yes, this, us being a little bit ahead of spending, might be due to school spending a little bit more operating grants already. So district is watching carefully all expenditures and aiming to stay within whatever is budgeted, not my budget. And part of it also to monitor school spending. So even so, they had their own budget, but school sometimes will have and want to purchase something for next year or like last minute purchases that they're trying to avoid those spontaneous purchases. Everything is to be within budget. They're hoping to recover this 174 within April, May, and June. This quarter and to stay within 372,000.
Question for you. So is it possible for us to see like the real costs of, for example, international ed? Because we see our tuition addition there, and then I'm just curious as to what it costs the district.
Yes, we can see, not on this report, it doesn't break services and supplies into like
Yeah.
separately. I can,
But we'd be able to track that, or we do track.
yeah, we do track.
It's just because sometimes, the public questions us, if it's taking up our resources. Where in fact, I actually think it's probably adding to our.
No,
I think it's really important as a business, the board, it is a revenue generator.
Yeah.
And if it were beginning not to be, that would absolutely be a discussion of the board because it's meant to be. Yes, we do it for lots of fantastic reasons. Around partnering with other countries, with sharing Canadian values and learning just as much from other cultures. However, it is a business of the board because it's not a requirement from the ministry. And if it were to cost us money, we would have to have that discussion. We made some changes during COVID, for example, by allocating people to other positions so that we weren't necessarily losing money.
Yeah.
But yes, we can share another time, just,
Yeah, just,
here's the full and what we're actually making, but it is a revenue generator.
yeah.
Sorry, Paul, you could have spoken. Paul is,
Sorry, just to follow up on that, Chris, I think it's important to recognize that the international program enhances all of our students' learning opportunities. So while it might be a business of the board, the communication I have with the public is that this is a critical component to the education that they're receiving as well. It's not an either or, and it is also a value add for the budget.
Yeah, and I think that's why Chris said for
Yeah.
many reasons.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful program for us to be able to offer.
And when we go into the budget, Elena can point out where the international revenue is and where the expenses are, so you can see.
Yeah, well, I saw the revenue and that's what made me think about it. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, like if we didn't have that, what our budget looked like? Like it's right now, it's supplementing.
It's certainly not losing. It's still generate.
We're generating,
We're
so, yeah.
generating, we could generate more because we find enrollment, we place more.
It's the home state issue.
Homestay.
Yeah.
So this is all from me. These are the last part is projected, like the process.
Okay, I think
Like as of now.
Celeste might have a question for you, Elena.
Yeah, no, only if are you done? That's it? Okay. The question that I had is, what should we expect to see next year? Are you expecting the numbers to be similar when you present to us next year? And if so, or whether or not, what are your concerns about what this is going to look like next year?
The projections for the year, for the upcoming year.
it gonna look the same in terms of deficits?
We are right now in the process of creating multi-year plan. So it's required next reading, so that once we are look at the next year annual budget, we will have 2 more years to see. So next board meeting, we will see like next year plus 2 more years. It will really depend on our assumptions that we would make. If it keeps the same like we did for 25 and 26, or there are some changes or not. I'm like hoping that our enrollment actually would not be that down much, because it happens every year. We project conservatively, and at September 30th, there is always a little bit more. So it's kind of how people work. They come in summer and at all these kids bring kids that may be case for 24-25. Also, international department is working on finding homestay, which also would drop our numbers significantly. So district over 22-23, the district have gone through significant district budget reviews. So we looked at every single line item to see if there are any efficiencies. Unfortunately, not all costs are under our control, like some license fee or audit fee. They just go up, and we cannot stop using Microsoft or Google or things like that. The student numbers from the ministry did go up, but even so, they didn't cover. They did cover pay increases, but they don't necessarily cover inflation or sick leave. Increased sick leave. So those numbers that are bringing us down, and to keep covering them, we have to find efficiency somewhere else. We are not at the point yet to cut anything. Even so, we are monitoring actual expenses to see if there is anything possible to kind of keep some activities non-essential that may contribute to overall savings. There is no short answer. Like, I'm positive that we will be able to balance the budget, and we still have some unrestricted accumulated operating surplus to use. There is still some available, and 1% is our policy, and the budget that we will be looking at in a minute will be managed to balance. Stay 1%.
Step in the room for a moment, so I'll take over at this point, and maybe Ellen, if you have any other comments you'd like to make. Sorry about that. I'll just, for the folks who were unable to hear, Rebecca just stepped out of the room for a moment, so I'll take over at this point. And I'll thank Ellen and Danielle for their work on that report. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I believe we can move straight to action item number 7, which is a report on the international education fees from Faisal. And I see Faisal there on the screen. So I'll turn it over to you at this time, Faisal. Thank you.
Muting. Okay, that's challenge number 1. Good to see all the jerseys out there. I'm in Ontario, so I don't dare wear mine for fear of all sorts of retribution. But I thought I would start with a retrospect. I'm going to go back to the question and point you back the question you were just talking to. In our strategic plan, there's 2 pieces that make up international revenue, gross revenue. Tuition being what Elena just spoke to, and homestay being a net 0 revenue piece, but it is part of our gross revenue. And in our strategic plan in section 4A, it talks about our target of 10% profitability of gross revenue. So depending on our number, our targets, which we are, hitting, is about 10% of gross revenue is what we aim for. So tuition and homestay being both. So just to answer that last question a little bit, if anyone needs clarity, I'm happy to go back to that. But our strategic plan does kind of address that. And we stay within those parameters. So my next piece, I'm going to do a little retrospective. So this year, for this coming year, last year, I just wanted to cover this off. Paul asked me to just to review this quickly, is we did some increases that were approved by the board. So I'm just reviewing this quickly. You know that one of our ongoing problems has been maintaining and increasing the number of homestays. COVID had us down. But pre-COVID was really strong. We lost almost all of our homestays during COVID. And, you know, I've run the numbers and we're regaining, but it's been a slow increase. One of the things that have hit us is inflation. So this year the board approved an increase in homestay for Pemberton and Squamish from $1,200 to $1,400 as highlighted below. An increase in tuition from $14,000 to $15,000, and an increase in our application fee from $200 to $250. What I try and do in kind of comparing fees is what I've done is I've run the numbers as we know it for all Lower Mainland fees so that we keep kind of alignment. So I just provide that to you so that we know, you know, that part of my thinking is that we're not out of alignment with our neighbors. The pie gets sliced in many different ways. So for all of the school districts listed above, the homestays are outsourced. So they have custodial fees and they have a commission fee for the MLI, for example, the outsourcing agent. So for the agents, what they want to see is that number I have where it says total cost, and that being in alignment with the rest of the school districts. But how that pie gets sliced is different per district. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. So that's what we've approved for this coming year. That was approved last year. Any questions on that before I proceed?
I don't see any questions at this time, Basil, so carry on.
Okay. The next piece, and my PowerPoint's not moving here. Oh, actually, Archie, you're running the PowerPoint. Yeah, thank you so much. A bit of an anomaly. So when we crunch these numbers closely, I'm going to make you aware that there's a 0.08 difference because not everything is one semester or one full year. So as you add these numbers, it'll be off by 0.08 because sometimes a kid counts for 0.75, 0.4, has an emergency. So not every number is going to match exactly. It's going to be off by 0.08 as you do the math on this, if you do the math on it. So just want to bring that to your awareness. But what I want to start with is at the end of April of last year, so we're taking apples to apples, we had 132.05 people registered. At the end of April this year, we have 131 people registered. So almost identical numbers for registered students. However, the total number of students registered, so an FTE is a 1-year student. So that comprises of 2 half-year students or 1 full-year student. The total number of students last year was 151, and the total number of students this year is 162. However, the FTE is the same. So the anomaly becomes when you look at the full year is 104 and 101, so slightly below, but the first term semester, you'll notice we have 32 last year and 48 this year of first terms, which is a 67% in a single registrant of term 1 students. So all of this is going to go to my next point. Term 2 students at this time, we had 10 students registered. Last year, we have 12 students. So the term 2 students typically register starting now until next November even. So that'll trickle in. And then often in term 1, the students come and they like it and they extend. So last year we had, of the 32 term 1 students, 10 of those students extended. So if I'm to do the math on that, that's 31% of, let's just say 48 students, we know 48 students are registered for term 1. So if we do the math based on last year, 31% extend, we'll have 15 extensions based on last year's numbers. So I know that's a lot of numbers at you at once. So if anyone needs to stop and ask me a question, please feel free. Because I'll go to my next point.
So when you're showing, sorry, Melissa, just 1 sec. When you're showing term 2, are they just that's just the extensions? We don't take new students in term 2?
No, we do take new students. So at February of last year, sorry, April of last year, we had 10 people registered for term two, new students registered for term two. At the same time this year, we have 12 students, not including the extensions. So those extensions are not including that 10. Just happens to be the same number.
Oh, okay. Now I get it. I was a bit confused there. Thanks. I
Yeah.
think Melissa had a question as well.
Yeah, Faisal, what is the reason that you see that kids don't stay a full year? What is the reason that they come for only half a year or quarter year?
So we are very Eurocentric in terms of the population we get, and there's a credit issue where they have to repeat if they stay a full year. However, often many of them, especially the Germans, and this is largely representative of Germany and Italy, can do a semester and not get penalized for a year. So there's kind of a combo of reasons.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to move on to our next slide, and I'm going to give you a bunch of rationale for what we're doing. So, Archie, I'm going to actually ask you to click on my link there, the blue fee structure, because it's easier to see. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to take over if it's okay if I share my screen, and because my link will work, your link is not working, if that's okay. I'm gonna try to take over here. Can you guys all see that okay? So when I click on fee structure, it's going to make this easier for you guys to see. So my proposition is that
Sorry, to interject, it hasn't, on our screen, it hasn't changed. It's still the smaller.
Oh. Okay, you can't see what I'm seeing right now on my screen with the big.
No, it's the same as before.
Oh.
I can see it on my computer.
Yeah.
No, we had that earlier. It was the same box.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says that I'm sharing it successfully, but I guess I'm not.
Okay, that maybe, sorry, I thought.
I'm seeing the same thing.
Oh, okay. So actually, you can take it back over because if it's not working, then you can just take it back over.
You just enlarge it. from the
Unless we,
screen.
Faisal, you want to email me the one.
It's okay. I think you guys will get the gist from what Archie. It's a smaller version, and I'll explain it anyways. I'm going to run from mine, Archie, or are you going to run your? Oh, okay, keep going. Okay, so the suggestion that we're making is because we've seen a dramatic increase in only S1 students, as we want part of our strategic goal, if you look under the same 4B, is to enhance and increase the number of long-term students. So there's a number of rationales that I'm making for what we're going to change. So if you look at line 2, tuition, if you were to come for a full year, we're charging $15,000. However, we want to charge a premium if you only come for one semester because for a number of reasons. People are dipping their toe in the water and not committing. There's an economic incentive for only doing one semester as opposed to doing 2 semesters because you pay at 2 completely different times. So you get a year break if you do the 2 semesters, and it's easier for our numbers, and we want to really maintain more longer term students. So what I'm suggesting is we change a 1 semester student either way from 7,500 to 8,000. However, if they come for a year, they get a bit more of a break. This isn't totally new ground, but it is impacting us more than districts. Other districts are feeling this as well. And in Colleen's last district, they did the same thing to incentivize longer term students. So the main rationale that we're talking about is changing that tuition payment to incentivize longer term students, essentially. And that's the only really significant change we want to make for next year. There's a number of other things that we can go into, but that's really the one significant change for next year. That's all I have, but I'm happy to take questions.
Yep, Celeste has a question for you.
Thanks for that, Faisal. I was just wondering if other districts are using that sort of pricing structure to incentivize fall terms, or if you've spoken with anyone else and if they've had successes with it.
So it's not being done of the lower mainland school districts. However, we are more affected by this than the other ones. So for example, in Richmond, Burnaby, and many of those school districts, they are very heavy in Southeast Asia, which are typically 3-year students. They're not as heavy as we are in the European students. The other district, we have Colleen Hanna in our district, who did this prior to me doing it, and she did it a couple of years ago. Found it effective in terms of it's a revenue booster. It's also a lot more work for our staff when they extend and don't commit and have turnover. Homestays also like the consistency. So there's a number of rationales for it. But we are one of the anomalies in the lower mainland. At the end of the day, we're not out of line with our prices, and that's what I want to make sure that we don't get out of line. So.
Not seeing any other questions. So are we looking for a recommendation at this point? Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second for that? Thank you, Melissa. All those in favor? And that is carried. And Faisal, thank you very much for the work you put into this.
Oh, actually, sorry, I don't know what's happening to my brain. There was one
Oh.
thing I forgot. I totally forgot something. We are adding a homestay orientation that's more comprehensive. That is a new fee. We did charge a fee for that. Sorry, I totally forgot about this. So we are doing a camp style orientation for our kids. It'll allow them to arrive a little bit earlier in August, not September 1st, so that we'll have to pay some more money to homestay. This is very universal in our world, so that's done throughout every Lower Mainland district, and it'll likely be an overnight orientation. So we are charging an extra fee for that. So I totally slipped my mind for some reason, and that's the $300 fee. So yeah, we wanted to put that on the table as well.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Basil, is that an optional experience for the kids, or are you going to have that be mandatory?
That's going to be a mandatory. The orientation is mandatory, and again, it's universally done across every province in the district, except for ours to date.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I think that that covers it off, and thank you again for presenting to us.
Thank you.
All right, then, sorry, Cynthia, I just kind of jumped back in. Okay, so then we can move on to our first reading of the 2024-2025 annual budget and bylaw. Danielle and Elena.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, Faisal, you don't have to stick around if you don't want to, so.
But you're
Thank you, guys.
welcome to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So in the agenda attached, everyone will see there's two documents and they're related to our annual budget. One is the summary document, and then there's one about detailed information around our expenses. So I'm gonna let Elena Medina, our finance director, speak to that a little bit here, but before we do that, I just want to share with everybody the approach that we made when we did this budget. So you may recall in the February board meeting, we passed the amended budget for the current school year, 23-24. And at that time, we had done a number of cost reductions across the district. And so what we did is we used that budget as a starting place and kind of just rolled it forward. So it already had those cost reductions in place. So I just wanted everybody to be aware that's kind of the starting point with a minor few other changes. And I also just wanted to reiterate that the province did announce when they gave us the budget that they were not giving us any funding for inflation. So I'll be speaking to this later in the open board meeting because I want the public to be very aware that you know, the cost of everything is going up. The province did give us funding for 3% staff wage increases. But it's not enough to cover our inflation. And it's not enough to cover our benefits increases significantly as well. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. I'll share that with the public later tonight as well. And you're going to be continuing to refine our budget in the next iteration. So as Elena mentioned earlier, we did make our budget is balanced, but it's really tight. So I'll let her jump into the specifics, but I just wanted to like make everybody aware where we're at and how we got there. So I'll hand it over to you, Elena. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle, for this overview that how was our approach. We started with already reduced budget. And let me show the screen. This is a summary. These columns, just to remind you how the file is structured, the yellow column here, it's the budget that we are looking at the next year annual budget 24-25. The red one, the pink one is amended budget for the current year, and the blue one is annual budget for current year, so year apart, like year ago from now. And starting with enrollment and student amounts. So student amounts are whatever the ministry already announced, new per student amount for operating funding. And student enrollments are 274 FTE down comparing to September 2023. District adjusted up 135 FTE, looking at the current registration. So we still 138 FTE down comparing to September 2023.
Sorry, if I just might add, so in case you're wondering why we adjusted up, it's because those are actual registrations up. So you know we're getting those. So it's not just really.
Yes, but based on actual registration, what principals see. February and May count was projected 53. There is also adjustment for February and May down below. So total operating grant, including all the demographics, is where is the amount? I'm a little bit lost here. Oh, here we go. 63 million. Enrollment-based operating funding, which includes 800,000 funding protection based on our original projection, 274 FTE down. So district adjusted some differences. So funding protection we recalculated based on, so it's not 274 FTE down, but 138 FTE down. So we recalculated, so it would be 500,000 more or less of funding protection funding. So with these adjustments, so we estimate operating grant to be 63 million enrollment based. It's 700,000 more than amended budget and almost 3 million more than a year ago. Moving next. Still operating, all these funds are still different operating sources. Not many changes except for labor settlement. We don't have labor settlement this year because it's already beyond the point when they fund through special like operating grant for labor settlement. So all pay increases are included as per the ministry in per student amount. So this is a major down. The rest is very close. The differences here is international enrollment. So it's 300,000 down comparing to September 2023. It's not really September. International students, we don't count as a snapshot as 71. We count based on what we know how long each student would stay. So if it's 10 months, it's 1 FTE. We know that somebody is only for first semester, only for second semester. We 0.5, so it's not really September, but comparing to amended budget of current year, it's 300,000 less enrollment. It tuition fee is new this year. It haven't changed it for a number of years. It's $500 more. But because of decline enrollment, we still have, right now, 131 FTE students are in school books. So we only put whatever we know already registered and processed, fees scheduled, and principals have these students in their classroom configurations. They have in their school budget book. So 131 FTE international students. Total revenue is almost 3 million, 2.3 million. Special purpose grants, not many changes, except like normally we do not budget an annual budget, special purpose grants that are not announced, except those that always given to the district. So tripartite, 242,000 is not there, and 52,000 of mental health is also not there, even so the expense side is included in the district. So two other funds that we normally do not budget an annual budget, but we did budget it this year, is kind of grants for early care and learning and early childhood educators dual credit, and change in result for young children for this group of funds for the total of 273,000. It was an amended budget. It was not last year preliminary budget, but we included it because we have staffing portions of it. There are like 2 bodies of staff that are paid out of the special purpose grant, so we included it this year. The total special purpose grants are 9.1 million, which is very close to what was an amended budget for the current year. The use of surplus, restricted and special purpose funds estimates how much we will have, so we have to include them. And 600,000 is unrestricted portion, the ones that we have policy for to keep the accumulated unrestricted operating surplus not less than 1%. So to balance this budget, we included the use of 600,000, and it puts us at 1.06% of the projected estimated accumulated operating surplus to the end of 2025.
And just to refresh everybody, that's what our policy says, that we have to have 1%, and this is putting us at 1.06%. So it's extreme.
But it's within policy though, so kudos. Yes. So,
Allocations. So the biggest allocation is allocation to schools. 49, almost 50 million out of this 78 million, including the use of surplus, is allocated to schools. What does it mean? Danielle wanted me to look a little bit more in details in here. So these amounts, every single line here, whatever is allocated, international, special needs, English, per pupil allocation, classroom enhancement fund, all those funds are in school books. This is like, for instance, classroom enhancement fund, or like per pupil allocation, almost 30 million. This is like, if we add up per pupil allocation for each of 16 schools, we would arrive to this amount. The same for international, we give portion of tuition fee to schools. And if we add up whatever we have given to all schools based on their FTE of international students, the total for all 16 schools, 862,000. The same for special needs. So this is how it works. There is a, comparing to amended budget, we have 2 million less, but comparing to last year, same time budget, we have 2 million more, because we in annual budget 23-24, we increased 4 million more to give to school, to allocate to schools. So comparing to the same period of current year, 23-24, we are giving to school 2 million more, but comparing to amended budget of current year, 2 million less. So it's 50,000, it was 50 million, it was 51 million in amended budget, and it was 47 million in annual budget. Itinerant services and educational support allocations didn't see like changes. It's very close to what we have year over year and within budget iterations. The biggest increase is leave provisions. Leave provisions have a separate table to show. If I may, here is the table, Daniel, and I put 5 years historical actual cost. The only that are not actual is current year estimate and next year estimate. So the leave provisions for actual cost for 1920 was 1.8 million. It went up 21% in 2021 year to 2.2 million. And then it went 37% up in 21-22 year to 3 million. That was actual for 21-22. It slightly went down 7% in 22-23 to 2.8 million, which gave us hope that we were hoping that the 23-24 we would have less, but unfortunately right now we see that we based 24-25 estimate on 23-24 10 months actual, what we see, and we extrapolated it with slight kind of understanding that like May and June usually have less leave time. So we extrapolated that 3.2 million would be our good estimate for the 23-24 and 24-25.
And for clarity, this is sick leave. And-
Leave provisions, like 90% is sick leave. There are some other leaves like bereavement, whatever is provided by the collective agreement of teachers and PT.
Yeah. So it's
Mostly
maternity,
sick.
other pieces.
Lisa?
Sorry, is that also work safe leave or is it
No.
sick leave and?
Work leave, if it's. work
No,
leave,
that
that's
one is
covered under-
recovered through work BC.
Yeah.
No, this is how it is. So here we see 3.2 million, 350 increase from amended budget current year.
Yeah, so on top of inflation, we're faced with.
And more than 1 million increase compared to the same time of the year, this current budget, like this is the second reading of current year budget. At 2.2 now it's 3.2. Yes.
Is that trend of going down and coming up, is that in other districts as well? You know?
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I know that it's going up significantly, given quite a few examples where other school districts having major shortfalls in the school districts. So I haven't heard that, but it's done this little. Everyone in general is going, it's up significant. So that's, and I appreciate everybody's advocacy. Coverage for that. So far, the ministry acknowledges that we are all going through this, but we haven't received it.
Also, it's worth to mention that analysis that Daniel and I did for leave provisions cost. When you look at those percentages increase year over year of actual cost, you see that those percentages are higher than pay increases, negotiated pay increases, which means that it's not just increase in pay, so it's increase in number of days taken. So like if it's 37% increase, and that year the QP and teacher was like 3% increase, obviously it's a 24% was increase of number of days taken. So this is true increase in absence. Next allocation, so the total allocated to schools, including educational services, educational support, itinerant services, 62 million, which is close to what we have, a little bit less than what we have. Like 1.6 million less than we have an amended budget. And like, yeah, 1.5 million more than what we had a year ago. For operation, maintenance, and transportation, there we have 4 more drivers. They are at full capacity for drivers class, and this gave us 331,000 increase in student transportation costs. The rest is similar to what we had last year, and the
And for
district.
any public watching, I just think it's important to know we're thrilled to have.
Yes, we have all
complemented drivers now.
we
so
filled
that's a
in
cost
all
we're happy
drivers'
to
positions.
spend.
And the district allocation for business, educational and governance and international education is also very close to what we had in the amended budget, just 99,000 more. With all those decreases that we had last year. So business services are like creeping up slowly because there are some costs, like I mentioned, it's hard to control, like audit costs went up, like everything goes up. But we are trying to keep this portion similar to what we had before to not increase it. So overall allocations of revenue is 78 million and giving us just tiny 5,000 of unallocated contingency. And it also, I don't know, Danielle, do you want us to share this details on accumulated surplus? Sure. So this, we started kind of tracking if we are compliant with our own policy. So we estimated how much current year unrestricted operation accumulated surplus will be based on our amended budget.
Yeah, so
We-
that's based on the budget that we passed in February, that one.
The use here, we report use of 600,000 that you could see earlier of unrestricted economic operations. So surplus, this tiny little amount is unallocated contingency, so giving us 826 unrestricted economic operations surplus estimate, which is 1.06% of our expenses, operating expenses. Not just operating special purpose funds, but like non-capital expenses. And the policy minimum is 781. So they're tight, but still different points. On details. Okay, the same columns are yellow, so budget that we are looking at, first reading of 24-25 and change from amended budget of current year. We can see there are not much changes except those that I have already mentioned. They're not like usually we have more changes, but this budget didn't see much changes. We tried to stay the same, except there were a few staffing changes. One, we brought the school psychologist and instructional support team up 0.35 FTE. Also, on food programs, D6. We have our food coordinator, new position that we hired this year, up to 1.4 full-time because it didn't work full year, this 23-24, so now it's up. And it's funded through Feeding Futures Fund, special purpose grant that we received 600,000. Another staffing change is, like I said, in E6 transportation. They have 4 more drivers. There we go. It's the highest number I ever seen. And also, yeah. Outflow. And also there was a tiny little change in F5.
Can I ask the bus driver for tripartite agreement? Where does that cover?
Yeah, so we didn't include, I noticed earlier, so that's a funding announcement we haven't been given yet, so we haven't included that. You went for earlier and it's just left blank because we don't know what that grant's going to be. The other one was the mental health in schools.
Yeah.
We know there'll be monies there as well. We haven't received that yet, so again, we're trying to be as conservative and transparent as possible. So once we know that those amounts, those will get added into the
So-
budget.
So initially, there wasn't any more funding provided under the LEA and tripartite, but now there will be.
Well, that's what we're waiting to hear. We know that our director of instruction for education is, and I think yourself as well, pointing to the secretary treasurer. There's a meeting coming up for the provincial leads.
Okay,
And I don't have the answer to that.
So for LEA, that's the local education agreement. Is that?
No, the driver.
well, the commitments under there.
Yeah.
And the tripartite agreement in general. I don't think that there were provisions for how, like, it was telling us we have to fund certain things, but it didn't say how we fund those, if
Right.
they're getting extra money or not. So I'm just curious when I see tripartite bus driver, $49,000. Like, we're taking that under right now under our operating.
Because we didn't include the funding for tripartite, it's not allowed. We put all drivers we have right now on the district fund. When we have tripartite, one driver is included in tripartite. So it would be 11 in one.
Yeah.
On amended budget.
So once we actually get the funding. for-
It will help our budget.
So it is the same number of drivers, and there would not be extra.
It's not an
drivers
additional.
Hired for tripartite, it's just like one driver, because we are providing transportation services no matter what. If we receive tripartite money, so we just kind of cover portion of part of our
Helps us.
transportation
Yeah.
cost to tripartite. But we don't hire one extra driver for that. We
Yeah.
just use whatever driver. And yeah, this is just under human resource cost. Again, it's we had some turnover in HR, so the person is now full year, will be next year, so it's just up. About international, if you're interested, we can take a look at international cost.
Sure.
Um,
Being mindful that we have 15 minutes
Yeah.
remaining.
oh, we are behind? Oh, okay.
No, we're not behind, but we have 15 minutes remaining. I don't know how much more time we need.
I guess maybe everyone has this document, so we could just ask if anybody has questions about anything in the budget. And the next.
Yeah, okay. That works. So
Yeah,
Are
for
there any
international
questions?
Department, the revenue was 50.2 million, and here on the F3, 1.4 million cost, so giving us 800,000. Under this program. That's all from me. Well done.
thank you, Elena. Elena? Trying. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for questions.
I don't think there are any questions by the looks of it, but there is a recommendation there. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Celeste.
Sorry, I have a few questions. Some of them were answered. So the first one is just a comment. I wonder for the benefit of the public, if there could be like an asterisk to explain what P1 or P2 and F1 is, just so that when people are looking at the table. No, it's okay. Because they're posted publicly in the agenda, when people are looking at them, they might not understand what each of those columns actually represent. Yeah, in the document for the future, just for because in the beginning, when I was looking at it, it just took me a little while to remember. And then I thought, if someone's never looked at these, they might not understand what each of those columns are. So if we could do that for the future, I think it would be helpful for the public. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no problem. And then so you had touched on, so there was a reduction in FTE for school psychological services, and I was just wondering what the story was behind that.
Yeah, so thank you, we're prepared for that. So it's not a reduction. What we do, because when we were unable to fill the role, we then contract in the summertime to catch up to ensure that the budget is spent. So thanks for the opportunity to clarify. So it might show, again, if we want 3.0 to have those services for students, and we've hired 2.0, it'll show a 1.0 not filled, but then we catch it up in the summertime by contracting with other psychologists in the region.
So there's no reduction. in
There's no
service.
reduction.
Okay, that's helpful.
Thank you.
Can I keep
Good
going?
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you tell us just a little bit about the increase in FTE for a behavioral support teacher? I noticed that was something that I noticed, but.
Yeah, there was an increase. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that obviously we work with Phil and his learning services team, and if they're seeing a need for some increased services in that area, if we can afford to do that, we certainly do so.
Okay, and so what I'll highlight is just maybe that the district is responding to needs that are observed, and an increase in FTE has been
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes.
demonstrated in the budget.
Yeah, if that's the case, I'm not.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't
Sure, it's
report
there.
the line.
I don't see an increase in FTE. The dollar amount went up, and that's probably because of wage increases, the 3%.
Well, I had noticed an FTE. It's possible that I was wrong. My apologies.
But that said, we do make adjustments during the course of the year where we can, necessary if the budget allows for that. But usually that happens at the school level with funds that are still available, where we add on to supports in schools. That helps.
The next question that I had. Oh, it was a comment. I was really glad to see an increase in resourcing for teacher numeracy. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that, Chris.
Yeah, like, I guess I'll speak on behalf of the team that when we do our planning with the public around need, and obviously based on our strategic plan and looking at our results in numeracy, we were very clear that we've got some work to do to increase student achievement in numeracy, especially for students of Indigenous ancestry. So we're continuing to fund that where we can. Do you want to speak to
Well,
the?
actually, there was an increase from 22, 23, 23, 24. But I don't think there's a planned increase from this year to next year. So there was an increase coming into this year, but there's no further increase. So I don't know if that's I'll have to go back and look at it. It might be showing an increase from.
It could be, again, like the labeling of the columns. Maybe I was a little bit off in the way that I was analyzing it, but in any case, I think that it is important to demonstrate when there is increases in resourcing in particular areas.
No, that's. Great, thank you.
Keep going.
Yeah.
I just have a couple more comments. So, if this is incorrect, please tell me, was there a reduction in FTE for ECEs then? No. Okay. The bus drivers, thank you, those positions are filled.
I'm just going to turn it to yes, because Ian and his department
Those positions are all filled?
worked for months and months and months and months and
Amazing.
over a year to do that. So kudos to them.
Okay, and the 95,000 for board activities, we've talked before about what that constitutes. Can you just break it down again for us?
Let me turn over to Secretary Treasurer.
Yeah.
Not a bit heavy, but I do remember just like being part of BCSD and studying that. And then I think like going to that. Some of that is also school recognition, actually. So like when you go to your school class. That was a big change. And a lot of it's trustee expenses.
Our Prody, any of our Prody in there?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the Canadian.
Yeah, the big and when we do ed sessions, what, 3-4 times a year, is that covered?
Yeah, any meals out of that are like. Absolutely great. I think we're ordering you some books.
For next week?
Not that.
Okay.
I think of that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, good. To give Ian enough time to get through his. So Ian? Oh, wait, sorry. Again, there's a recommendation there.
Important
Your mic.
That the Finance Committee recommend the Board of Education give first reading to School District number 48, Sea to Sky Annual Budget Bylaw for fiscal year 2024-2025 on Schedule A as presented pursuant to Section 113 of the School Act RSBC 1996, circa 412, as amended from time to time called the Act.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Rachel. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Now we can move to you, Ian.
Yeah, okay, so this, has everybody had a chance to, review the annual facility grant proposed spending plan? So it's a pared down list compared to previous years. We've got 10 facilities identified here. About 14 projects, not including the ongoing painting that is included every year in our annual facility grant. So we have painters' wages and benefits on paid for funded through our AFG every year. But yeah, so this represents a number of projects. One of the main projects proposed for this year is an upgrade to the Don Ross main floor washrooms, which will help with some of the congregation issues, some of the supervisory issues we're seeing in that school. It'll improve sight lines, reduce areas inside the washrooms for kids to congregate out of sight, and also improve functionally. We're going to add net 4 toilets over the existing. So there's 6 in both those washrooms currently, and there will be 10 when this project is done, as well as upgrade the interior finishes and modernize it. So it'll tie in with the rest of the renovations that have occurred at Don Ross. Then we work down the list where we've got some security upgrades at Squamish Elementary and Garibaldi Highlands. That's like intrusion alarm upgrades and cameras, security cameras. We're also going to put some money towards the Strong Start portable again at Squamish Elementary this year. Some of the work last year was deferred until this year. So if you saw last year's list, it's on there again this year. And we are also submitting an application to the ministry for replacement of that portable. However, that application goes in August and may not, or if it is funded, it'll be in future years. So we're going to put some more money into the portal to keep it going. And that's identified in the plan here. We've got some asphalt repairs again at Myrtle Phillip. We're going to be replacing the east side windows at Mantham. We're planning to replace the windows at the east side of Mantham Elementary. That's the field side. So those will all be replaced. That's the heat loading side of the school. We're also doing some grounds improvements. We've got some areas where there's undermining of some of the grounds underneath asphalt. So we're going to be fixing that and replacing the asphalt. We're going to be painting the exterior of Stepness Elementary this year. So that that will occur, and that's the entire school that's going to be upgraded, painted. We've got some block heaters at Whistler Secondary that need attention. They're plugs that are in the bus loop that are non-functioning or marginally functioning, so those will be replaced. Again, I spoke about painters' wages earlier. That's included every year. We're going to be upgrading some lighting in the bus corral next door to help with security and safety over there. And then this building will receive its long-awaited access ramp in front, as well as some parking lot improvements, and everybody can agree the parking lot is in rough shape, so we will be putting some money towards fixing that and making the building accessible.
Awesome. Any questions or comments?
Sure.
If I may.
Lisa, your mic.
I'm Ian, thank you. You're always awesome. I love your spending plans. However, my question is, what happens to the ones that we didn't get last year? Do we reapply for those awesome things like the upgrades for seismic upgrades at House Sound
Oh,
Second? Like
that's-
what?
That's different again.
It's a different
It's-
funding source.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
We
Sorry.
have the capital, we have the minor capital, and Lisa's the
See?
annual facility grants.
See,
that she's
still,
referring to.
okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure those weren't totally off the table. And I think I would be remiss in saying that we heard some things at Valley Cliff Elementary about their parking lot that we may need to have a peek at too.
Yeah, but so we prioritize every year, and so we have limited funds and we have to make the best decisions that we can based on need, but we'll be aware of that. We'll try and get to that one next year. And then to Celeste's point, I'll just say, just to piggyback, when we do our review of the feedback from partner meeting, what we did about it, a lot of those items, again, did come out of partner meeting where folks are making comments about, you know, from parking lots to exteriors of building, and again, recognizing that we are aging infrastructure and we need to ensure that we're making our buildings a proud place for people to be. So I think we I'll kudos to facilities for bringing forward these changes to staff, and then we get a discussion around prioritizing what we needed to do. So we would hope this makes, you know, positive change for the public that we want in our facilities, for our kids especially, and staff.
Yeah, and just to go over that, like, that's why we did paint Valley Cliff over, right? Because that came out of the partner group. People were saying, we were able to squeeze, we had enough funds this year to make it work.
So things like that we should be reporting out on. It's like, you know,
Yes.
we heard and we did.
Mhm.
So to be able to track that, even just for like my own knowledge, I would like to.
And then the other thing was staff must be with that too. That's what I was trying to think. That was the feedback from the survey, so. Fair enough.
I can speak really briefly to parking lot improvements as well. So a number of the things that we're looking at this year, we can do with parking markings, with just reconfiguring this current stalls and creating parking zones. So we have a couple of projects that are already in the works for that, but that's covered under our annual parking lot repainting budget. So they're not here in the ALG, but there are in the works for Mansfield Elementary and Valley Cliff. See what we can do with some paint.
So as a curiosity, I guess. And I don't know if we're being responsive to needs or if it was already on the books, but Blackwater Creek, for instance, now has like accessibility ramp in there for access from outside. The configuration of the washroom has changed. So were we just responsive to a need, or were we anticipating?
It's a bit of both. So we're responsive to the needs from the community feedback, but we also have our own priority list, or a list that we maintain of what the needs are in schools. And Blackwater's been one of the ones that's been on the list for improvements for a number of years. But sometimes it just doesn't happen quick enough, and so people will bring those concerns forward again. We like to address them as quickly as we can. But it is a bit of both. So we're taking the feedback and reacting and acting on that information, as well as maintaining our own internal priority list. It's part of our land and maintenance program. A lot of the issues are parking lot painting, exterior painting, interior painting, things like that. Those are on PMs, but they may not be happening quick enough, and other schools make it higher priority. So we try to keep it fairly even.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I just want to make a comment on that too. So, I mean, there's a push for making all of our buildings more accessible. And that's another thing that the province hasn't. And so there's so much we could do, but we just don't. have it. So we are responding to encouraging as soon as it comes up. As quickly as possible, which is also what did happen at Blackwater. So we can do that.
It was, yeah, and
So, but yeah, I mean, we wish we could do.
yeah. Okay, we are a bit late getting our committee of the whole meeting started, so we have a motion there. Unless anyone has a pressing comment or question. Okay, not then we have a recommendation. Was prepared to make that. Any question?
That the Finance Committee recommend the Board of Education approve the 2024-2025 annual facilities grant as presented.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Cynthia. All those in favor? And that's carried. Ian, thank you again. Do we have any questions of clarification from the public?
No, we do not.
No? Okay, so then I think we have completed the business of this agenda and we are adjourned.